She was naked, floating in another man's pool, drink in hand, laughing like she didn't have a husband who loved her. I saw everything. Her sister was there too, topless. And the man they were entertaining? He wasn't just rich, he was hers. The way she wrapped around him, the way he touched her like he owned her? I didn't need more proof. That moment, that exact moment, burned itself into my brain. And I swear, I felt something inside me snap. I stood hidden in the shadows just beyond the fence. I had followed her location after coming home early from a business trip, expecting to surprise her. Instead, I was the one getting slapped across the face with reality. I called her. She answered on the third ring, giggling. "Hey babe, you okay?" "Yeah," I said slowly, I still locked on her silhouette in the pool. "My flight got canceled. I'll be home real soon." Silence. Just for a second. Then, fake sweetness coated her voice. "Oh, that's fine. Can't wait." She hung up quickly. I watched her jump out of the pool and start shouting something to her sister. Panic. I ducked away and got back in my car. My hands trembled, not from fear, not from heartbreak, but from the pure, boiling rage building in my veins. Let's rewind 24 hours. Her name is Ashley. Mine's Jake. We've been married 5 years. I met her when I was broke, hungry, and chasing dreams. She said she loved the ambition. Said she'd build with me. But now that I have money, suddenly I'm too boring, too predictable, too focused on work. So she found her fun elsewhere, apparently in the arms of some guy named Dominic, a flashy investment dude with a jawline made for commercials and zero moral compass. Ashley started changing about 2 months ago. The perfume, the late nights, the constant phone checking, the don't wait up messages. I noticed, of course, but like an idiot, I let it slide. I gave her space. I thought maybe it's just a phase. What a clown I was. The day I caught her was supposed to be a turning point in our marriage. I had bought concert tickets for her favorite band. I'd planned to surprise her with a getaway. I'd even booked the exact suite where we spent our honeymoon. But instead of finding my wife at home, I found an empty house and a dead silence. Until I opened her GPS location. Until I saw her in his mansion. And now? I wasn't just some heartbroken fool. I was a man with a plan. Because I'm not going to scream or cry. I'm going to dismantle her world, piece by piece. And when I'm done, she'll regret ever thinking I was just a safe option. By the time I got back to our house, the fire inside me had cooled, but not died. No, it sharpened. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to break things or drown in tears. I was going to do what she never expected, smile. I opened a bottle of wine, cooked her favorite pasta, truffle cream fettuccine, set the table for 2, lit candles, a performance, a trap, every move calculated. At 1:12 a.m., the door opened. I didn't even turn, just stirred the sauce. Ashley's voice came soft, like a breeze before a storm. "Jake, you're home." I turned with a grin. Surprise. Her eyes were wide. She hadn't even changed. Still had on the sheer black cover-up I saw her wearing at the pool. Her hair was wet, her face too clean, washed of sin but not of guilt. She forced a smile. "I thought your flight was tomorrow night." I nodded, still smiling. "It was. Then I decided I missed you." She stepped inside, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood. "That's sweet." I watched her grab a chair. She couldn't meet my eyes. So, I said calmly, pouring her a glass. "Did you have a nice night?" She hesitated. "Just spa with Brittany." I almost laughed. Must have been some spa. Looked more like a pool party with a guest list of 3. Her face froze. She blinked. "What?" I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "GPS, Ash. You never turned off location sharing." She went pale. "I saw you," I continued. "Every inch. You weren't exactly hiding. Not that you even tried." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Like a fish yanked out of water. "It's not what you think." That line. Classic. I raised my brow. "Oh? So you weren't naked in another man's pool? With your sister? Laughing like your life's one big joke?" She scoffed, suddenly switching tones like flipping a light. "You're insane. You've been working nonstop for months and now you're jealous of a swim." I stood, towering over the table. "Don't you dare gaslight me." Her mask slipped. "What do you want me to say, Jake? That I was bored? That I needed something to feel alive again? Because living with a man who treats his laptop better than his wife isn't exactly exciting." There it was. The truth. Or at least her version of it. I stepped back, crossing my arms. "So your solution was to play stripper for a millionaire behind my back? While dragging your sister into your mess?" She rolled her eyes. God, you make it sound so dramatic. No, Ashley, you made it dramatic. I just caught the show. She laughed bitterly, tossing her hair. You act like you're so perfect. Like you didn't bury yourself in work and forget how to be a husband. At least Dominic listened. My stomach twisted. So that's his name. She froze again. I nodded. Dominic. Rich. Older. Tan. Likes whiskey. That him. She didn't answer. Good. I didn't need more lies. You know what hurts the most? I said. It's not the cheating. Not the lies. Not even the humiliation. It's the fact that you enjoyed it. You laughed. Like I was just some joke you outgrew. She stood up too, suddenly furious. I did outgrow you, Jake. You think being a provider makes you a man? You stopped being mine a long time ago. I didn't flinch. Good, I said. Then I won't be yours tomorrow, or ever again. Her eyes widened. You'll get divorce papers next week. Jake, wait. No. You waited. You gambled everything for cheap thrills and champagne. Now live with the consequences. I grabbed my keys and walked out, leaving her in the flicker of candlelight and the sin of food she didn't deserve. That night, I didn't cry. I started planning. The next morning, I didn't wake up in our bed. I woke up in a cheap motel off Highway 9. The kind of place you rent by the night when you don't want questions. Cold sheets. Flickering light. Peeling wallpaper. But it was quiet, and I needed that. My phone buzzed every hour. Missed calls from Ashley. A couple texts, half-hearted apologies mixed with emotional blackmail. Can we talk? You misunderstood. I didn't mean to hurt you. And my favorite, it wasn't even serious. She wanted to explain. Of course she did. She wanted to soften the blow, repaint her betrayal in pastel colors. Not gonna happen. But there was someone else I needed to talk to. Someone who wasn't just involved, she was right there, soaking in the same pool like it was spring break in hell. Brittany, Ashley's younger sister. 25, wild, spoiled, and always glued to her phone. She and Ashley were inseparable party twins. But Brittany had something Ashley didn't, guilt. I saw it in her eyes when Ashley ran inside that mansion. Brittany hesitated. She looked around, like she knew they'd been caught. So I called her. She answered on the second ring. Jake. Where are you? Silence. I just want to talk. More silence. I'm not mad, Brittany. I just need the truth. She gave me an address. A cafe downtown. Quiet place. Neutral ground. I arrived 20 minutes later. She was already there, hoodie up, sipping iced coffee with trembling hands. No makeup. No filters. Just a girl who knew she was in deep. I sat across from her. Thanks for meeting me. She nodded, biting her lip. I didn't know you saw everything. I did. She exhaled slowly, almost relieved. Okay. Then I won't pretend. I didn't say a word. I just waited. Brittany looked around, leaned forward, and whispered, Ashley's been seeing that guy for months. His name is Dominic. Real estate investor. Divorced. He's generous. I clenched my jaw. How generous? Trips. Jewelry. Rent for her little art studio. She told me it wasn't cheating if it didn't mean anything. Said you were too busy to notice. I stared at her. And you just went along with it? I didn't know at first, she snapped. I thought she was just hanging with friends. Then she invited me to the house. Told me it'd be fun. And I didn't know you'd be back. I swear. I sighed, rubbing my face. She's your sister, Brittany. You let her destroy her marriage and treated it like a vacation. Brittany's eyes welled up. She used me too, Jake. She always has. Makes me feel guilty when I say no, like I owe her for everything. I didn't even want to be there last night. I believed her. Maybe that made me stupid, but her voice cracked in a way Ashley's never did. She told me you'd never leave, Brittany said quietly. That you were too nice. That even if you found out, you'd stay. Those words hit harder than any slap. I stood up. Thanks for the honesty. She grabbed my wrist. Jake, wait. There's something else. I turned slowly. She's been recording your arguments. Editing them. Saving voice clips. I think she's building a case. My blood ran cold. For what? Brittany hesitated. I think she's going to try to flip this on you. Make it seem like you were the bad guy all along. Of course she was. Classic Ashley, cheat, lie, manipulate, and then play the victim when it all falls apart. Thank you, I said flatly, walking out. That night, I didn't sleep. I backed up my phone, downloaded every GPS log, pulled credit card statements, security footage from our Ring cameras. I wasn't just leaving her. I was going to bury her lies under evidence so solid, not even her crocodile tears could crack it. Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp, I was in the office of Daniel Cross, divorce attorney. Former prosecutor, sharp suit, sharper eyes. The kind of guy who didn't care about sob stories, only proof and precision. I barely sat down when he looked me dead in the eye and said, "If what you're saying is true, you need to act yesterday." I laid it all out. GPS logs, screenshots, the pool footage I captured through the fence, Brittany's confession. Everything. Cross tapped his pen thoughtfully, nodding as I spoke. Then he leaned back and sighed. "There's something you're not going to like," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "What?" "She filed first." I blinked. "She what?" He flipped his monitor around and pointed to the screen. There it was. Case filed 2 hours ago. Petitioner, Ashley Lynn Porter. Grounds, emotional neglect and verbal aggression. She'd painted me as a distant, cold husband who belittled her, left her lonely and unloved. She even claimed I had controlling tendencies and limited her social freedom. I laughed. Out loud. That's her angle? Daniel didn't smile. She's not stupid. She's playing offense. If the court believes she was emotionally abused, she can paint the cheating as a desperate cry for affection. You look like the villain. She's setting the narrative. I clenched my fists. She was in another man's pool. Naked. Not enough, he said flatly. You need direct proof of an affair, texts, photos, financial transactions. And more importantly, you need to show she's manipulative. That she's constructing this. I leaned forward. Her sister told me she's been recording our fights. Splicing them. Building a fake case. He nodded. If we can get those recordings and prove they're doctored, we flip the game. But you need to move fast. I left his office with a plan. And a time bomb. When I got back to the house that night, Ashley was sitting at the kitchen table, calm as a monk, sipping wine. "Hey, babe," she said like nothing happened. I ignored her and went straight to the office. I backed everything up already, but now I needed to dig. It didn't take long. A folder buried deep in our shared cloud drive, locked but lazily protected. A few password guesses later, boom. Jake_rages.mp3. Emotional_breakdown.wave. Recordings _for safekeeping. The files were exactly what Brittany described. Edited audio. Me, sounding angry and impatient, but out of context. Spliced phrases like, "I don't care about you," jammed next to, "Why do you even try?" Like a Frankenstein monster stitched together for sympathy. It was sick. She was going to use this in court. I copied everything, sent it to Cross. Then I walked into the living room. Ashley looked up, all fake smiles and silky lies. "You okay?" I stared at her. "You're a lot of things, Ash. But subtle isn't one of them." She tilted her head. "What's that supposed to mean?" I walked over slowly, dropped a flash drive on the table. "That's everything you tried to use against me. The edited fights. The voice recordings." Brittany told me, "You're not just a cheater, you're a manipulator. And you're bad at it." Her face twitched. Just for a second. A crack in the mask. "I'll let the lawyer handle the rest," I added, turning to leave. But then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. "Good," she whispered. "Then we're finally playing the same game." It was a moment of clarity. She didn't love me. She didn't miss me. She saw this as a chessboard, and she thought she was winning. But I wasn't the same man I was a week ago. And she was about to learn that the hard way. She thought she had me cornered. That I'd sit in silence while she burned my name with edited recordings and sob stories. That I'd just roll over and let her walk out like the misunderstood angel she pretended to be. No, this wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about justice. I called Brittany the next morning. Met her in a parking garage downtown. She showed up in a hoodie again, dark glasses like she was running from paparazzi. And maybe she was, at least metaphorically. "You got the originals?" I asked. She nodded and handed over a flash drive. All of them. From Ashley's laptop. She didn't log out after her little pool party. I copied everything before she could even sober up. I took it. "You just saved me." She gave a tired smile. She was always the favorite. Maybe this balances the scale. With those files, I now had before and after versions of each audio clip. Unedited, raw, and in some cases, proving I was the one being verbally baited. Daniel Cross was practically giddy when I delivered them. "This," he said, "this is a nuke." We filed a counterclaim. Added digital manipulation, malicious intent, and emotional fraud. Cross sent the package to her attorney right before court proceedings began. Ashley didn't take it well. I got the pleasure of seeing her lose control during our first court appearance. When the judge asked if she had any new evidence to support her claims of emotional abuse, she smirked like a movie villain and nodded. That smirk vanished in 5 seconds. Because Cross stood up, handed over the flash drive, and said, "Your Honor, we have unaltered versions of every file Mrs. Porter submitted. As you'll hear, they've been heavily edited, taken out of context, and manipulated to craft a false narrative." The courtroom went cold. Ashley's lawyer visibly flinched. Ashley herself? She just sat there, eyes wide, mouth slightly open like a fish gasping for air. The judge didn't even wait. "We'll review this in chambers. If what you're saying is true, Mrs. Porter may be facing sanctions for perjury and digital evidence tampering." Ashley looked at me, and for the first time since this hell began, she looked afraid. Not guilty, not sorry, just afraid. That told me everything. After the hearing, she caught up to me in the parking lot. "You had no right to go through my things," she hissed. I turned to her, calm as ever. "You had no right to turn our marriage into a stage play." She crossed her arms. "You think this makes you the hero? You still lost me." I took a step closer. "Ashley, I didn't lose you. I threw you away." She flinched. I kept going. "You're not a prize. You're a cautionary tale." She stood there, stunned, while I got in my car and drove off. But I wasn't done yet. Over the next week, I made sure every shared account was locked down. I froze joint credit cards, changed every password, transferred utilities into my name or cut them entirely. I even filed for exclusive use of the house until the divorce was finalized. And Brittany? She moved in with a friend and started therapy. "I need to untangle the Ashley in my head," she told me. I got it. Ashley wasn't just a bad wife, she was a virus, infecting every relationship around her, twisting loyalty into silence and silence into betrayal. But I was done being quiet. She wanted a war. She got one. And I had only just started firing. Just when I thought I'd uncovered everything, that there was nothing left for her to sink her claws into, I found it. One final betrayal. It happened on a Thursday evening, 2 weeks after the court ambush. I had just gotten home from a meeting with Daniel Cross, feeling like we were finally gaining control. The edited recordings had turned the judge against her. The restraining order she sneakily tried to file? Dismissed without a hearing. Everything was going my way. Until I opened my laptop. I logged into our shared cloud storage to pull some old tax documents when I noticed a folder I hadn't seen before. It wasn't hidden, just tucked between 2 vacation albums, titled J Expenses. At first, I thought it was budgeting stuff. Ashley was always obsessive with money. But when I opened it, my blood went cold. There were receipts, bank transfers, records from my personal accounts. Thousands of dollars moved. Not recently, months ago. At first, I thought it was fraud. But the account numbers? All legitimate. My accounts. My passwords. She had been draining me slowly. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. Transferred into a PayPal account registered to Ale Designs. Her studio project? The one she always said never made money. It made money, all right. Mine. I called the bank. Confirmed it. Everything was done using login credentials from our home IP. No hacking. No malware. Just trust, twisted and weaponized. I was shaking. It wasn't just the money. It was the premeditation. While she was slipping into silk robes and whispering lies into another man's ear, she was also bleeding me dry, slowly, surgically, like she was preparing her escape months in advance. I stormed outside, pacing, phone pressed to my ear. "Daniel," I barked when he picked up. "She's been stealing. You have proof." "I've got more than proof. I've got timestamps, logins, IP trails, all of it. She's been pulling from my personal accounts without my knowledge. That's theft. Send it over. I'll file a motion to freeze her assets immediately." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling, jaw clenched, replaying every time I ignored the signs. The way she insisted we share passwords because couples shouldn't hide things. The sudden burst of generosity she showed toward her sister, gifts, spa trips, dinners, and I thought she was just being thoughtful. She wasn't. She was laundering my kindness into ammunition. I confronted her the next morning, brief, brutal, and public. I walked straight into her favorite brunch spot, the one she always went to with her fake high society friends. She was there, laughing, fake as ever, until she saw me. I slammed a folder down on her table. Bank printouts, transaction logs, a screenshot of her fake business account. Her smile vanished. "What is this?" she muttered, eyes darting. Evidence, I said calmly, of your theft. Her friends were frozen, awkward, unsure whether to pretend they weren't hearing everything or just bolt. You accessed my accounts without permission. You lied. You stole. This isn't just a bad marriage anymore, Ashley. This is criminal. You're embarrassing yourself, she hissed, voice shaking. No, I said, leaning in. I'm exposing you. And then I left, without another word, without another glance. She could clean up her lies on her own. Later that day, Daniel filed to freeze her studio account, subpoenaed records from PayPal, and added financial fraud to our claim. That was the final blow. She stopped calling after that. No more crocodile tears. No more manipulative texts. Just silence. And for the first time in months, it was peaceful. But something still lingered inside me. Something that needed release. Not revenge. Closure. The building looked smaller than I remembered. Red bricks chipped with time. A little bookstore on the corner, a wine bar next to it, and in the middle, Luna Cafe, the place where I met her. Back then, I was broke and overworked, surviving on instant noodles and $20 hopes. Ashley walked in wearing a sunflower dress and ordered a triple-shot latte like she ran the world. She asked to share my table because the place was full. She laughed at my sarcasm. I thought she was bold, sharp, alive. I had no idea I was meeting the storm that would gut me years later. Now, I sat at that same table. Alone. Different man. I didn't come here to wallow. I came to remind myself that this was where the fantasy started, so I could finally let it die. The waitress came over. Young, maybe 20, probably in college. She smiled. Waiting for someone? No, I said, smiling back. Just closing a chapter. She gave me a curious look, but didn't press. She brought me my black coffee. No cream, no sugar. Just the way I used to drink it before life got complicated. I sat there, thinking. Not about Ashley. About me. I had spent months, years, even twisting myself to be the man she said she wanted. Working overtime to provide the lifestyle she dreamed of. Trying to be more spontaneous, more attentive, more everything. I forgot somewhere along the way that I wasn't supposed to be chasing her approval. She was supposed to be building with me. Instead, she was building exits. I remember a night, maybe 2 years into our marriage, when she told me, I feel like I'm fading, Jake. Like I'm just someone's wife, not me anymore. I stayed up all night planning a weekend getaway for her. Rented a cabin. Set up a spa day. Bought her favorite wine. I thought it was enough. It never was. Because Ashley didn't want love. She wanted attention. And when she stopped getting it from me, she hunted it elsewhere. She needed people to orbit her. To worship her. And the moment I stopped spinning fast enough, she called it neglect. She turned betrayal into art. First emotional. Then physical. Then financial. And yet, she still played victim when the mask slipped. I finished my coffee and looked around the cafe. There were couples laughing. Students cramming. A mother trying to quiet her toddler. Life. Normal, boring, beautiful life. And I realized something. I want that again. Not a performance. Not a constant mind game. Just peace. Something real. Something steady. I checked my phone. One missed call. Not from Ashley. From Brittany. I called her back. Hey, she answered quietly. You okay? Yeah. Actually, yeah. She exhaled. I've been thinking about you. You should stop. You've got your own healing to do. I know. But, thank you. For not hating me. I never did, I said. I just hated the storm we all let happen. She was silent for a while. Then said, I started painting again. Real painting. Not the crap Ash made me post. That's good. You're talented. You're going to be okay, Jake. I know, I replied, and meant it. After we hung up, I sat a little longer, then finally stood. I didn't look back at the cafe. Didn't need to. That part of my life was over. Not burned to the ground, just folded, sealed, and set aside. Because the truth is, closure doesn't always come in fire. Sometimes, it's just a quiet coffee, a clear mind, and the decision to move forward. It came on a rainy Tuesday. I'd just gotten back from a morning run, something I hadn't done in months. I was soaked, heart pounding, lungs burning in a way that felt good for once. Like I was alive. Like I was me again. Then my phone buzzed. One new voicemail. Ashley. I stared at the notification, thumb hovering. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want her voice crawling back into my head, twisting things, softening edges she had once carved with a blade. But curiosity won. I hit play. Jake, it's me. I don't know why I'm even calling. I just I don't recognize anything anymore. I didn't expect things to go like this. I thought maybe, after some time, you'd cool off. That we could talk. There was a pause. I messed up. I know that. I was selfish and stupid, and I let things get out of control. I told myself it was your fault, that you made me feel invisible. But really, I was just chasing something that never existed. Another pause. Shaky breath. You were always there. I just didn't see it. And now I've got silence. And lawyers. And bills I can't pay. And I guess I just wondered if you hated me. I stared at the wall, jaw tight. Anyway, I'm not asking for anything. Just, I hope you're okay. I hope you find someone who actually deserves you. Because I didn't. Click. I sat there for a moment. Silent. Then I hit delete. No reply. No message. Nothing. I wasn't going to throw gasoline on the ashes. I'd already walked through hell. I wasn't going back just to check on the fire. I showered. Got dressed. Made breakfast. The small, normal things that remind you life doesn't end just because someone broke you. You get to rebuild. You get to choose. And that's the thing Ashley never understood. She thought pain made her powerful. That cheating gave her leverage. That betrayal was some kind of evolution. But strength isn't in destruction. It's in what you survive. Later that day, I met Daniel to finalize the paperwork. He slid a pen across the table. She signed. No drama. No courtroom battle. Not after the fraud was exposed. Her lawyer practically begged us to settle, just to keep things quiet. I signed. It was done. Just like that. We left the office, and I stood outside for a moment, watching the rain hit the pavement. The city was loud and messy and beautiful in a way I hadn't noticed in months. Maybe years. My phone buzzed again. A message from Brittany. I heard it's finalized. Just wanted to say, you made it out. I replied with just 2 words. So did you. And I meant it. Ashley's chapter was closed. Forever. No revenge. No grand gesture. Just freedom. That night, I cooked myself dinner. Sat on the couch. Played music. For once, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. If you're reading this, and you're in a place like I was, in the eye of betrayal, unsure whether you're losing your mind or just your soul, let me tell you something. Leave. Walk away from anything that makes you question your worth. Because someone who loves you won't lie to your face, then weaponize your loyalty. They'll fight for you, not against you. They won't make you chase closure. They'll never make you feel replaceable. I didn't lose a wife. I lost a mask. And underneath it, there was nothing worth mourning. This was never about revenge. It was about remembering who the hell I am. And now, I'm finally home. I'm sorry. Who did you say you are? The groom's father looked like he'd seen a ghost. I stood at the back of the wedding hall, straight-backed in a charcoal suit, holding the invitation that was supposed to humiliate me. Every champagne glass in the room stopped midair. The bride, my ex-wife Madison, locked eyes with me from the altar, and the color drained from her face like someone pulled her soul out. Eric, she whispered. What are you doing here? I smiled. Not the kind you give a friend. The kind you give fate when it comes full circle. You invited me. Remember? That's when Brandon, her fiancé, turned to her. Wait, asterisk, you were married to him? The room stirred. The whispers hit like a storm. And then Brandon's dad, pale and trembling, stepped forward, pointed at me, and barked. Cancel the wedding. Silence. Then chaos. Madison's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Her friends gasped. Her mother fainted. And I just stood there, calm as hell, letting the past explode in front of me. Now, I know you're wondering, what the hell just happened? Let's rewind. Let me tell you how the woman who left me for not being a success ended up begging for forgiveness on the day she was supposed to marry someone else. Everyone turned to me like I was the villain walking into a fairy tale. And maybe I was. Maybe I'd finally accepted that. Madison stumbled down the steps of the altar, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. Eric, what the hell are you doing? She hissed, that fake smile stretched across her face for the guests. I held up the invitation she'd sent me. You invited me. Handwritten note and all. Thought I might learn what real success looks like. She grabbed my arm, nails biting into my skin. This isn't the time. You need to leave. Now. Brandon was watching her. Not me, her. Why didn't you tell me your ex was this Eric Miles? She spun back to him, voice shaky but trying to stay composed. Because he doesn't matter. He's nothing. He's just trying to ruin this for me because I left him. That line. Because I left him. Not because we didn't work. Not because it ended badly. No. It was always about her. Her decision. Her pride. Brandon's dad, still stiff as a statue, turned to me again. You're the one who buried my campaign. The files, the leak. I nodded. I never meant for it to be personal. I didn't even know he was your son. Until the invitation. Brandon stepped off the altar. Files? What files? The crowd started to murmur again, a wave of suspicion growing. I could feel the energy shift. People were no longer looking at me like an intruder. They were watching her. Madison's voice cracked. Brandon, don't listen to him. He's bitter. Shut up, he snapped, sharper than I'd ever expect from a groom in white. Someone in the back had pulled out their phone. I could see them Googling my name. They'd find it fast. The expose. The lawsuit. The investigation that sent half of Brandon's dad's donors running for cover. Madison's mom rushed to her side, whispering frantic things in her ear. Probably some blend of damage control and what have you done. I didn't care. I came for one reason, to see it, to feel it, to watch the woman who spit on my loyalty realize I was no longer the man she walked away from. Brandon turned to his father. You knew. I didn't know it was him, the man barked. If I had, I'd never let this happen. Never. You said this marriage would help clean the family image, Brandon growled. What else are you hiding? I stood silent. I didn't need to say a word. The truth was unraveling on its own. Madison looked at me one more time. You came here just to ruin my life. I finally stepped forward, slow and deliberate, close enough for only her to hear me. No, Madison. You ruined it the day you chose a lifestyle over love. I came to return the favor. Her slap came out of nowhere. Stung like hell, but I didn't flinch. The guests gasped again. That was her breaking point, not mine. I turned around, walked out of the hall, the noise of chaos behind me like thunder I didn't need to run from. But right before the doors closed, I heard it. Her scream. Not one of rage. One of loss. One of realization. And that was better than revenge. I didn't look back. Not once. I walked out of that building and into the California sunlight like I'd just escaped a burning house I used to call home. The valet brought up my car, the same AMG she once mocked when I said I'd own something like it one day. Dreams don't pay rent, Eric, she used to say. Well, now they bought me silence. I got in, closed the door, and the world outside turned to static. I sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, heart still thudding from the tension. I thought I'd feel victorious, triumphant. I didn't. I felt clean, like something that had clung to me for years had finally peeled off. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I picked up, already knowing who it was. Eric, please don't hang up, Madison's voice pleaded, shaky and breathless. I didn't say a word. I didn't know he was connected to you. I didn't know. You didn't care to know, I said flatly. You were too busy chasing a better last name. There was a pause. Then the voice I remembered, cold, entitled, returned. You're not better than me just because you got lucky. You think this little power move means anything? You're still that broke dreamer in a hoodie who used to beg me to believe in him. I almost laughed. And you're still the woman who used to measure love in square footage and Instagram likes. Silence. Then she snapped. You'll die alone, Eric. I hung up. It was a strange moment, knowing she had nothing left to throw at me except curses. No apology. No ownership. Just venom. Just projection. I pulled out of the venue's long circular driveway, the road stretching open in front of me. I didn't have a destination. I just needed to drive. Memories hit like potholes on a straight road. Her laugh when I burned dinner during our first month together. The night we danced in our tiny apartment, broke but stupidly in love. The first time she came home late, smelling like whiskey and lies. It wasn't all bad, and that's what hurt. Betrayal only stings when the love was real. And mine had been. Every bit of it. But hers? She'd started changing a year before she left. It began with little things. Gym at night. Phone always face down. New perfume. Strange absences. I wanted to believe it was stress. Work. Boredom. Anything but what it was. Then came the night I knew. I remember it like a scar. She came home past midnight. No apology. Lipstick smudged. Dress inside out at the hem. I asked her where she'd been, and she gave me a look, the kind you give a dog who barks too much. I needed air, she said. Not interrogation. I didn't press. I just watched, noticed, and when she slipped into the shower without undressing properly, I knew something sacred had broken. A week later, I found the hotel receipt. She said it was a mistake, a reservation her friend made using her account. I wanted to believe that lie so badly. I think I even nodded. But something inside me cracked that night, and it never healed. After she left, I spent months thinking I wasn't enough, that I lost the one person I thought would ride out the storm with me. I didn't realize she'd already jumped ship before the clouds even formed. Now, after all this time, after the pain, the silence, the rebuilding, I was the storm. And she didn't know how to survive it. That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to the cliffs near Crescent Bay, the same place we used to watch sunsets from the trunk of my old Honda, back when love felt simple and didn't carry price tags. The ocean was violent that evening, crashing against the rocks like it wanted to break the world open. I parked, stepped out, and let the wind rip through my suit like it was trying to strip away the last bit of her that clung to me. I sat on the hood, phone still in my hand. Madison hadn't tried calling again. Not yet, but I knew she would. I opened my texts. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed to see it one more time the moment she stopped pretending. It was from 1.5 years ago, just before she left. Madison, I need space. I can't be the only one trying. That was her opening line. The same one cheaters use when they're looking for a noble exit from dirty actions. I scrolled further. A few messages later came the one that cemented everything. Madison, you have ambition, Eric, but no direction. I want more. More. That word again. What she meant was, I want someone who already has it all, so I don't have to wait and believe in anyone anymore. And now that more had walked out on her at the altar in front of 200 people. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a voice message. I hesitated, then hit play. She was crying. Real tears or manufactured, I couldn't tell anymore. Eric. I messed up. I panicked. I thought I wanted something else, but when I saw you walk in, I remembered everything. Everything we had. Everything you used to say you'd become. And you did. You really did. Please just, don't let this be the end of us. I stared at the ocean. Let the words fade into the sound of waves. I didn't even bother replying. Let her sit in the echo of her own regret. But that wasn't the end of it. The next morning, I woke up to my doorbell ringing. It was her, standing there in yesterday's makeup and a trench coat she used to wear on our date nights. She had the same look she wore when she asked me to fix her car one summer, vulnerable, manipulative, layered. I didn't say a word, just leaned on the door frame and stared. Can we talk? She whispered. No, I replied. She blinked like I'd slapped her. Just 5 minutes. You had 5 years, I said. She pushed past me like the boundaries didn't matter. Like she still owned part of this place. My house wasn't big, but it was mine. Earned. Built from scratch after she left. She looked around like she was searching for proof I hadn't changed. This is nice, she said, touching the edge of the marble kitchen island. Don't touch things that don't belong to you anymore. That hit. She froze. Then she dropped the act. Her voice turned sharp. You think you're better than me now, don't you? No. I know I am. You were nothing without me. No, I was nothing because of you. She stepped closer, inches from my face. You think I didn't love you? I held her stare. I think you loved what I could be, not who I was. And when that dream took longer than you wanted, you left. She was quiet then. I thought maybe, for once, she'd own it. But she didn't. I cheated, all right? She snapped. You want to hear it? Fine. I did it. Multiple times. With Brandon. With 2 others before him. Because I was tired of waiting for you to stop dreaming and start living. I smiled. Not out of joy, out of understanding. You didn't cheat because I was a dreamer. You cheated because you're a coward. And now you want back in because you thought I'd still be standing where you left me. She slapped me again. I let it land. You're done now? I asked. She nodded slowly. But there were no more tears. She left. Just like before. But this time, I didn't hurt. I didn't move for a long time after the door closed. Just stood there, staring at the spot where she'd been, half expecting it to open again. But it didn't. This time, her exit wasn't dramatic. No suitcase, no screaming. Just quiet failure wrapped in regret. I made coffee. The kitchen felt warmer than usual, calmer. No storm in the air, no invisible tension pressing against my chest. It was like her presence had always carried static, and now it was finally gone. I sat down with the cup, looked at my phone, and for a second, I wondered if I should tell someone. Not for sympathy, not for advice, just to release it into the world. But I didn't. Some things don't need to be shared, they just need to be survived. Around noon, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring, then another, then a third. Finally, I picked up. Eric Miles. Yes, this is Detective Sam Harris with the Beverly Hills Police Department. We need to speak with you regarding an incident at the Oak Ridge event hall yesterday afternoon. I froze. What kind of incident? Allegations of professional defamation and disruption of a private legal event. I'd prefer we talk in person. I exhaled slowly. I'll come down. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a glass-walled room at the station. Detective Harris was younger than I expected, mid-30s, sharp eyes. He didn't offer coffee, just opened a file and placed a printed screenshot in front of me. A post from Madison's social media. Captioned, "He ruined my life. Showed up to humiliate me. He planned this for years." The comments were already a war zone. Half people defending her, half people tearing her apart. But one comment stood out. From Brandon himself. She told me he was abusive, manipulative, that he chased her for months after their divorce. None of it was true. I found out everything yesterday. I'm sorry to everyone who came. She lied to us all. I looked up. So what exactly am I being accused of? Nothing officially, Harris said. She filed a report. But with this statement from Brandon and her social media history, it's unlikely to go anywhere. Still, I had to call you in. I nodded. Thanks for being straight with me. He closed the file. For what it's worth, you handled that whole situation with restraint most people wouldn't manage. I stood up. You ever been betrayed, detective? He paused. Yeah, then you get it. When I left the station, I realized I wasn't angry. I didn't want revenge anymore. Madison could spin whatever story she wanted. The truth had already been carved into that moment at the altar. No caption could erase the look on her face when it all fell apart. That evening, I went to dinner with a few close friends. They knew some of the story, not all. I didn't give them details. Just said, she finally invited me to the show. I just didn't realize I'd be the finale. They laughed. But underneath, they saw it. The weight finally lifted. The closure I never got when she left was now mine. Not because she gave it, but because I took it. A few days later, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a check, $500,000, from Brandon's father's foundation, with a handwritten note. Consider it an apology. Thank you for blowing the lid off what none of us had the courage to face. I didn't cash it, but I framed the note. Because sometimes, closure doesn't come from a conversation or a clean break. Sometimes, it comes from knowing the truth shook a room so hard the liars couldn't keep standing. A week passed. Madison didn't call again. The silence, after everything, was louder than her voice ever was. No texts. No apologies. Not even another half-baked accusation on social media. Just digital ghosting, like she'd vanished with the shame. But I knew her better than that. Madison didn't disappear, she regrouped. She always did. Then came the email. The subject line. I need to explain something. Please read. I hovered over delete. I should have. But curiosity always has sharp teeth. The message was long. Too long. But it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't an apology, it was a breakdown. She wrote about how she met Brandon before our divorce, how it started as a connection at a charity gala, how she felt seen by him. That phrase, felt seen, made me roll my eyes. She claimed she didn't leave because I wasn't good enough, but because I reminded her too much of who she used to be. Poor, scrappy, uncertain. She said I was a mirror she couldn't look into anymore. And then she wrote something I didn't expect. I didn't know what love actually was until I watched you walk away from me without looking back. That's when I realized I didn't just lose a man. I lost the only person who ever knew who I really was and stayed. There it was. Regret. Too late. I closed the email and archived it. Not out of bitterness. Just peace. That chapter was closed. And life moved fast after that. My business hit a new milestone, a partnership with a major firm in New York. I traveled. I met people. Laughed without guilt. Woke up without wondering where she was or who she was lying to. But Madison? I heard through someone that she moved to Arizona. Alone. Her name hasn't been in headlines since the wedding. Brandon vanished from socials, too. Then, 3 months later, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Tessa. She was the photographer who shot our engagement session back in the day. She recognized me instantly, even though I was wearing sunglasses and had a beard now. We got coffee. Talked for hours. About everything and nothing. And when I dropped her off at her place, she smiled and said, "You're different now." Better or worse? I asked. More real, she said. Like you finally stopped pretending to be okay for someone else. She was right. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was living. And here's the part no one tells you. When a woman leaves you because you're not successful enough, she's giving you a gift. She's handing you your future back, without her in it. And maybe that future is quieter, simpler, harder. But it's yours. So if you're reading this, if someone left you behind because they didn't believe in who you were becoming, don't chase them. Don't prove anything. Build. Heal. Live. And one day, you'll walk into a room, and they'll be the ones looking for the exit. Because nothing is louder than the silence of someone who finally knows what they lost. Let me know if you'd like a bonus part or an alternative ending. About 4 months after the wedding disaster, I got a call from a number I hadn't saved, but I knew it the second it lit up my screen. I let it ring once. Twice. Then I picked up. Eric. Madison's voice was calm. No panic. No tears. Just still. I didn't speak. Just waited. I just wanted to say thank you, she said. You freed me from a lie. One I built, one I lived in. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve a reply. But I wanted you to hear it from me. You were the only real thing I ever had. I exhaled. Not from pain. From finality. I know, I said, and hung up. That was it. The last time I ever heard her voice. Life didn't go cinematic after that. There was no romantic montage, no perfectly timed new love swooping in to save me from the ache. But that was the beauty of it. I didn't need saving. I already did that myself. I started waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. The silence of the morning felt clean, like a blank page. I worked better. I breathed better. Hell, I even started laughing more. Real laughter, not the polite, hollow kind I used to use as a mask when I was with her. The men I used to envy, guys with the flashy cars, the perfect Instagram wives, the curated lives, I stopped seeing them as models and started seeing them as masks. Many of them were living Madison's fantasy. Polished on the surface, empty behind the eyes. Always performing. Always selling something. I didn't want that anymore. One night, I hosted a dinner. Closed circle only. No strangers, no business pitches. Just people who stuck by me when I had nothing to offer but honesty and ambition. Halfway through the night, one of my old college friends leaned back in his chair and said, "You seem lighter, man. Like you finally stopped carrying someone else's guilt." That hit hard. Because it was true. For the longest time, I thought I failed her. That I couldn't give her what she needed. I let her rewrite the story of our relationship and cast me as the disappointment. But the truth was simple. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a shortcut. And when I didn't fit that role fast enough, she bailed. Only now did I realize that wasn't my failure. It was her limit. Tessa and I kept seeing each other. Nothing serious. Just soft beginnings, long talks, and real connection. She asked questions Madison never bothered with. She listened without waiting for her turn to speak. She laughed with her whole face, not just for show. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to be worthy of someone. It wasn't about replacing Madison. It was about finally remembering who I was before her lies started to sound like facts. I stopped following her online. Stopped checking mutual friends. Let her ghost fade for good. She became something smaller than pain. Just a lesson. A name I once used to say with love, now just a footnote in a story I own completely. And the next time I stood in a room full of people, they weren't whispering behind my back. They were listening. To me. Not because I destroyed someone, or crashed a wedding, or dropped a bomb. But because I'd survived. Grown. Built something with my own hands and refused to let betrayal define the rest of my story. So here's what I'd tell you if you're standing where I stood, staring at the pieces of your pride, wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. You will. Not all at once. Not quickly. Not cleanly. But eventually. And one day, you'll walk past the mirror, catch your reflection, and think, damn, that man came back stronger than anyone expected, including himself. Want a follow-up story set a year later with a surprising twist? It was almost exactly a year later when I got the invitation. Not a wedding this time, a gala. Charity fundraiser in downtown LA, hosted by one of the new tech foundations I'd invested in. I almost didn't go. I hated these things. Polished smiles, fake handshakes, influencers pretending they cared about starving kids while sipping $300 cocktails. But something about that night felt different. I showed up late, just enough to skip the speeches but early enough to still make an impression. Wore a midnight blue suit, the one tailored so well it made me look like I'd never bled for anything. No tie. Confidence didn't need one anymore. I was halfway through a conversation with a venture capitalist from Seattle when I saw her. Madison. She was across the room, standing alone with a glass of champagne, staring through the crowd like she didn't belong anymore. Her hair was different. Softer. No extensions, no sharp lines. She looked older, but not in a bad way, just stripped of that fake glow she used to coat herself in like perfume. She was beautiful still, but not intimidating, not untouchable. She saw me, and for a second, the room vanished. She didn't smile, didn't look away either, just watched. I gave her a nod, calm, distant, nothing bitter, nothing warm, and that was all. I didn't walk over, didn't say hi, didn't reopen a door that should have stayed locked forever. But I saw it in her eyes. She knew that I'd moved on, that I didn't hate her, that I didn't need her, and that was the cruelest kindness I could have ever given. I left early, drove down the coast with the windows down, wind loud, music louder. The city faded behind me like a bad dream. No ghost in the rear view, just road. And that was the end. No big finale, no epic confrontation, just life, real, steady, earned. That night, I pulled over on a quiet overlook and looked out at the ocean. Same place I'd sat almost a year ago, angry, heartbroken, lost. Now I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. And as I closed my eyes, breathed in that salt air, I realized something simple, something freeing. She left me because I wasn't a success. But walking away from her? That was the most successful thing I ever did. The end.
I never imagined I'd be that guy, the one who finds his whole life reduced to shattered pieces on a dirty bedroom floor. Yet there I was, gripping a gun I never thought I'd use, staring into the pleading, panicked eyes of some coward who'd been sharing my bed, or at least my wife's part of it. But let's rewind. I'm getting ahead of myself. Her name is Rachel, and if you had asked me just 2 weeks ago, I'd have said she was the woman I'd die for. Rachel, with her honey blonde hair always styled to perfection, her sharp wit, and that face, a face that knew how to smile at you while stabbing you in the back without breaking eye contact. The woman was all charm and venom wrapped up in one sleek package, and I had been blind enough to love her. Today, though, I saw the truth for what it was. A truth that unraveled so quickly it left me breathless and shaking. I was home early from work, a random stroke of luck or a cruel twist of fate, depending on how you look at it. I'd been feeling off that day, uneasy in my skin, so I decided to skip out on the last hour of dragging through spreadsheets. I walked in through the front door, expecting to see Rachel watching one of her insufferable home makeover shows or texting on her phone. Instead, I heard it. Low voices. A quiet laugh that was far too intimate. The sound of a man. My blood froze mid-step. For a split second, I thought maybe I was imagining things. I must have misheard, right? But then Rachel's voice cut through the silence like a dagger, teasing, flirtatious, not for me. I didn't think. I moved. Up the stairs 2 at a time, heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The bedroom door was ajar, and I didn't bother knocking. I pushed it open. And there they were. Rachel, half naked, her hair a mess, a far cry from the perfectly put-together woman she pretended to be for me every day. And next to her was this idiot, a man who looked like he'd crawled straight out of a college frat house. Scruffy beard, jeans barely hanging off his hips, a t-shirt wrinkled and smug with sweat. I didn't know his name, and I didn't care. They froze. All 3 of us locked in a moment I'll never forget. Rachel sat up, eyes wide and mouth open in what I can only describe as shock and annoyance. Not guilt, no, that would have been too decent for her. Ben, she said finally, her voice dripping with irritation as if I was the one who'd done something wrong. What are you doing home? I couldn't even speak. My gaze darted between her and her friend. He looked scared out of his mind, a deer caught in headlights. Good. You're joking, right? I finally managed to say, my voice cracking from the sheer rage boiling inside me. What am I doing home? You think this is the time to be asking questions, Rachel? Rachel rolled her eyes. Rolled. Her eyes. As if I'd caught her doing something as harmless as forgetting to take out the trash. Relax, Ben. Don't be so dramatic. And then the guy, this absolute moron, spoke up. Man, look, I didn't know she was married, okay? That's when I saw red. Literally. It was like something inside me snapped. I'll deal with you in a minute, I said coldly, pointing a shaking finger at him. You sit your ass down. Then I turned to Rachel. You. Explain. Now. Rachel sighed and stood up, barely bothering to cover herself with the sheet. What do you want me to say, Ben? She asked casually, as if we were talking about nothing more serious than what to have for dinner. I'm tired of living a lie. I have a right to love whoever I want. That's when the idiot stood up, big mistake, and tried to edge toward the door. I didn't let him get far. I reached into the bedside drawer, pulled out the revolver I kept for emergencies, and aimed it at his leg. Sit down, I growled. Rachel screamed. Ben. Have you lost your mind? The guy froze mid-step, his face drained of all color. Hey, man, no need to do anything crazy. I fired. The gunshot exploded through the room. Rachel shrieked, her hands flying to her ears, and the guy collapsed to the floor with a howl of pain, clutching his thigh. Blood seeped between his fingers. I took a step forward, the revolver still trained on him. You're not getting far, I said calmly, my voice colder than ice. You're going to sit there, and you're going to tell me why the hell you thought it was okay to screw my wife. Rachel lunged at me then, grabbing my arm, her voice shrill and furious. Ben, stop. You can't do this. I shoved her off easily, the gun still steady. She fell back onto the bed, glaring at me with so much hatred it made my stomach turn. I will fight for my right to love someone else, she screamed, her words hitting me like a slap. You're just an idiot who doesn't understand anything. An idiot. That's what she thought of me. I stared at her for a long moment, and the realization sunk in like a stone in my chest. Rachel, I said quietly, my voice shaking with fury, I don't think you understand just how far this has gone. For a moment, the room stood still. My ears rang from the gunshot, but the silence that followed felt deafening. Rachel sat on the edge of the bed, chest heaving, her face twisted into a mask of disgust and rage. Her lover whimpered on the floor, clutching his bleeding leg, like the pathetic fool he was. I stood there, the revolver still in my hand, breathing hard. It wasn't just my heart pounding, I could feel the cracks spreading inside me. Cracks that had been hidden for God knows how long, now breaking wide open for me to see. Rachel was the first to move. She grabbed a robe from the floor and slipped it on, tying it loosely around her waist. You're insane, Ben. Absolutely insane. I laughed bitterly. I'm insane. I gestured to the scene around me. You're sitting here half naked with another man, and I'm the one who's lost it? You've got some nerve, Rachel. Her eyes burned into mine, full of contempt. Not guilt. Not shame. Just pure, seething hatred. She folded her arms across her chest like she had any moral high ground to stand on. You're overreacting. This isn't the first time something hasn't gone your way, and you've flown off the handle. Her words punched me in the gut. Was she serious? How long had she been waiting to weaponize that against me? I pointed toward the bleeding idiot on the floor. Who the hell is this guy, Rachel? Your gym buddy? Someone you met while I was working my ass off to put a roof over our heads? Rachel shrugged like I'd asked her what time it was. His name's Jason. He's not the problem here. You are. Jason. Of course, it was something stupid like Jason. I turned my attention to him, watching him wince as he shifted on the carpet. Jason, how long has this been going on? Jason looked up at me with glassy eyes, stammering through his pain. I don't know, man, a couple months. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might shatter. A couple months. The words came out like venom. Rachel stepped between us, blocking my line of sight like I wasn't holding a goddamn gun. "Leave him alone, Ben. You're embarrassing yourself. He didn't do anything wrong." I let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. "Didn't do anything wrong? He was screwing my wife. You don't own me." Rachel spat, eyes blazing. "I have the right to be with someone who makes me happy. Someone who actually listens to me instead of burying himself in work like you do." That hit a nerve. My grip on the revolver tightened. "Oh, I'm sorry, I was too busy paying for your shopping sprees, Rachel. Too busy keeping this house running so you could sit around and complain about being unfulfilled." Her lip curled into a sneer. "You think throwing money around makes you a good husband? Newsflash, Ben, you're boring. You're a joke." I blinked at her, stunned. "A joke?" "Yeah," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "You're an insecure little man who can't handle the fact that someone might not want you anymore." That was it. The last shred of restraint I had left snapped. I turned back to Jason, who was squirming like a worm on the carpet. "You think you're real brave, don't you? Walking into another man's home and putting your hands on his wife?" "Ben, stop!" Rachel screamed, lunging for the gun again. I pushed her away harder this time, and she stumbled back into the dresser, knocking over a lamp. Jason let out another pathetic groan. "Look, man, I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear." "You didn't mean for it to happen?" I interrupted, my voice ice cold. "What? You just tripped and fell into bed with my wife?" Jason didn't answer. He just stared at me with that stupid, terrified look on his face. He didn't have to say anything, the truth was written all over the room. Rachel, regaining her balance, hissed at me like a snake. "You're pathetic, Ben. I don't love you anymore, okay? I haven't for years. You've just been too blind to see it." Something inside me shattered. Not cracked. Shattered. I couldn't speak. I just stared at her, taking in the venom dripping from her words, the scorn etched across her face. This woman I had built a life with, shared dreams with, was looking at me like I was nothing more than garbage to be thrown away. Jason groaned again, snapping me out of it. Blood was pooling under his leg, staining the beige carpet. My carpet. My home. I pointed the revolver at him one last time. "You're going to leave here, Jason. And when you do, you're going to remember what happens when you mess with another man's wife." Jason nodded quickly, too scared to argue. Yeah, man, I get it." Rachel stepped forward again, blocking my aim. "Enough, Ben. Just go. Get out of here before you do something you can't take back." I stared at her, feeling the rage burn through my veins like acid. "You don't get to tell me what to do, Rachel. Not anymore." She glared at me, the defiance in her eyes almost daring me to do something. "You want to play the tough guy, Ben? Go ahead. Shoot him again. Shoot me, too, while you're at it. I dare you." Her words echoed in the room, hanging heavy in the air. For the first time, I saw Rachel for what she really was, cold, manipulative, and utterly heartless. I lowered the gun. Slowly. "Don't worry," I said quietly, my voice shaking with anger. "I'm done with both of you." And with that, I turned and walked out of the bedroom. My hands were trembling, my mind spinning out of control. The hallway felt like it stretched for miles. My steps were heavy, each one dragging me further away from the wreckage upstairs. Behind me, I could still hear Rachel's voice echoing through the walls, snapping orders at Jason the clown. She was always good at giving orders. Always good at controlling the narrative. I should have stayed and let her have it, really let her have it. All the words I'd bottled up over years of blind trust and naive love were ready to burst out of me like poison. But my hands were shaking, and my heart was thundering too loud in my ears to focus. I needed to get out. I needed space before I did something I couldn't take back. I paused halfway down the staircase and gripped the banister to steady myself. My eyes drifted to the family photos that lined the wall, pictures of me and Rachel, smiling like fools. Our wedding day, a vacation in the Bahamas, Christmas morning with mugs of hot cocoa. Memories that meant something to me, at least. Had she been faking it the whole time? Or was there some point, some fleeting moment, when she actually loved me? I haven't loved you for years. Her words replayed in my head, sharp and final like nails in a coffin. I felt like a ghost in my own home. A stranger surrounded by the artifacts of a life that didn't exist anymore. At the bottom of the stairs, I stopped again. What the hell was I supposed to do now? Call the cops? Tell them I shot a guy in the leg because he was screwing my wife? Maybe they'd pat me on the back and say, "Good shot, sir. Well done." No. The thought made me laugh bitterly under my breath. I wasn't getting any medals for this one. I turned and looked back up the stairs. The bedroom door was closed now, muffling the sound of Rachel's voice. I imagined her crouched beside Jason, tending to him like some wounded hero. "You're pathetic, Ben. I don't love you anymore." The rage returned in a flash. Hot, consuming, impossible to contain. I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles cracked. She thought I was pathetic? I was the one who put up with her tantrums. I was the one who worked late to keep her life exactly the way she wanted it. I was the one who defended her when people called her shallow or cold. But she wasn't shallow. She wasn't cold. She was a goddamn black hole. And I had been stupid enough to orbit her for far too long. I needed answers. I turned and headed for the kitchen. It was late afternoon, and sunlight streamed through the window over the sink, casting everything in a sickly golden glow. I opened a cabinet and grabbed a glass, filling it with water from the tap. My hand shook as I brought it to my lips, spilling half of it down my shirt. I slammed the glass down on the counter. Rachel's voice was suddenly behind me. "Are you proud of yourself?" I froze, my back to her, gripping the edge of the counter. I could hear her bare feet padding across the tile floor, coming closer. "Are you?" she repeated, louder this time. I turned slowly to face her. She was wearing that damn silk robe, the one I bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. It hung loosely off her shoulders, as if she'd thrown it on as an afterthought. She looked at me like I was a piece of gum stuck to her shoe. "Proud of myself?" I echoed. "Proud of what, Rachel? Catching you in the middle of your little extracurricular activity?" Her lip curled. "You shot a man, Ben. You could have killed him. Do you have any idea how insane you look right now?" I laughed, a hollow, humorless sound. "I look insane? You're the one who turned our marriage into a joke. You're the one sneaking around like a damn teenager." Rachel rolled her eyes, like I was boring her. "This isn't about me, Ben. This is about you. You haven't been a husband in a long time. You've been a paycheck. That's it. A paycheck." The words hit me harder than any slap could have. My chest burned, my head spinning as her voice pierced through every weak spot I had left. "That's how you see me?" I said quietly, almost to myself. "A paycheck." She shrugged. "What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry?" I'm not. I won't apologize for finding happiness somewhere else. You're the one who drove me to this. My vision blurred with fury. "You think this is my fault?" "Of course it is," she snapped. "You're boring, Ben. You don't listen. You don't care. You've been coasting through this marriage for years, acting like it's enough just to exist in the same house as me. Newsflash, it's not. I took a step toward her, the distance between us shrinking to a sliver. So what was the plan, Rachel? Keep him around until I found out? Let him parade through my house? Sleep in my bed? She didn't back down. Rachel never backed down. Maybe I wouldn't have had to if you were actually a man and not just some sad little boy pretending to play house. That was it. I slammed my fist into the cabinet beside her, the sound of splintering wood echoing through the kitchen. She jumped, but only for a second. Her face was calm again, as if she knew she had already won whatever twisted game she thought we were playing. "You're pathetic," she said, her voice cold and final. I stared at her, my breathing ragged. For the first time in my life, I didn't see the woman I married. I didn't see the woman I loved. I saw a stranger, a soulless, manipulative stranger who would burn down everything we built just to keep herself warm. I stepped back, my hands trembling at my sides. "You're going to regret this, Rachel." She tilted her head, a small smirk tugging at the corner of her mouth. "I doubt it." I turned and stormed out of the kitchen, grabbing my keys off the counter. My mind was a hurricane, thoughts, rage, betrayal, all of it swirling together into something I couldn't untangle. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I couldn't be there anymore. The front door slammed shut behind me with a force that rattled the windows. I stood there on the porch for a moment, the silence outside jarring compared to the chaos I'd left inside. My chest rose and fell in sharp bursts, my lungs desperate for air, like I'd been underwater and only now clawed my way to the surface. The sunlight hit me hard, and for the first time in what felt like hours, I realized how disheveled I must have looked. My shirt was half untucked, stained with the water I spilled earlier. My hands were smudged with dirt and sweat, still shaking with a rage I couldn't contain. I glanced down at the revolver clenched in my right hand, the weight of it suddenly suffocating. What had I done? What was I doing? I slipped the revolver into the back waistband of my jeans, hiding it beneath my shirt. I had no plan. My feet just started moving, carrying me down the steps of my porch and into the driveway. My truck sat there like a loyal dog, keys clenched in my palm. I climbed in, slammed the door, and started the engine. The rumble beneath me calmed my nerves, just slightly, enough to keep my hands steady as I pulled out of the driveway. The road stretched out ahead of me, long and empty. I had nowhere to go, but I drove anyway, because the thought of turning back, that thought made me sick. I could still see Rachel's face burned into the back of my mind, smug, unapologetic, like she didn't care about the life she just torched. "You're pathetic." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white. Every word she said, every smug look she gave, replayed in my head like a broken record. The woman who I spent years of my life loving, building a future with, was nothing more than a snake. And the worst part? I hadn't seen it. Not until now. The road blurred past me, houses and fields turning into streaks of color as the speedometer ticked higher. I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. At some point, I realized where I was headed, Mike's place. My oldest friend, the only person I could trust to tell me if I'd finally gone off the deep end. Mike lived alone in a small house just outside town, the kind of place you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. I pulled up in his driveway and killed the engine. Mike answered the door after 3 hard knocks, blinking at me like I'd woken him up. His flannel shirt was half-buttoned, and his graying hair stuck out in odd directions. "Ben? Jesus, man, you look like hell. What's going on?" I pushed past him without answering, walking straight into his living room. It smelled like beer and old takeout, but I didn't care. I dropped onto his beat-up couch, burying my face in my hands. Mike closed the door behind me and stood there, watching me like I was a ticking time bomb. "Ben," he said cautiously, "what happened?" I looked up, my voice coming out rough and broken. "Rachel." Mike sighed like he'd been expecting it. What about her? You two have a fight? I let out a bitter laugh. You could say that. I caught her, Mike. I caught her with another guy. He froze, his eyebrows shooting up. What? In our bedroom, I said, the words like gravel in my throat. In our bed. I couldn't finish the sentence. The image was still too raw, too vivid. I felt like I might choke on it. Mike ran a hand through his hair, letting out a low whistle. Jesus Christ, man. I don't even know what to say. Are you sure? Am I sure? I snapped, glaring at him. I shot the guy in the leg, Mike. I think I'm pretty damn sure. His jaw dropped. You shot him? Yeah, I muttered, leaning back against the couch and staring at the ceiling. I had my revolver in the drawer. When I saw her, I lost it. I didn't kill him, but I made damn sure he won't forget today. Mike dropped into the armchair across from me, shaking his head. Ben, man, what the hell are you gonna do now? I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. I don't know. We sat there for a moment, the silence stretching between us. Mike grabbed a beer from the cooler next to his chair and handed it to me. I cracked it open and took a long, desperate sip. You know, Mike said finally, his voice careful, I never wanted to say anything before, but Rachel always gave me a weird vibe. I looked at him sharply. What do you mean? He shrugged, scratching at his beard. I don't know, man. She's always been cold. Like, she never really looked at you the way a wife should. You know what I mean? She was always more into herself than she was into you. Hell, she probably loved that guy in the mirror more than she loved anyone else. I stared into my beer, the bitter taste settling on my tongue. It wasn't like I didn't know that deep down. But hearing it from someone else made it real, too real. Mike leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Listen to me, Ben. I know this feels like the end of the world right now, but you can't let her win. You can't let this destroy you. You're better than that. I didn't answer. I just sat there, numb and empty, staring at the label on my beer bottle. Rachel's words echoed in my head, over and over again. You're pathetic. I haven't loved you for years. A part of me wanted to go back to the house, drag Jason out onto the street, and beat the living hell out of him. Another part of me wanted to grab Rachel and shake her until she understood what she'd done to me. But what good would it do? She didn't care. She didn't care about any of it. I need to figure this out, Mike, I said finally, my voice flat. I can't stay with her. Not after this. Mike nodded, his expression grim. Then don't. But don't do anything stupid either, all right? Get a lawyer. Take the house. Take everything. Make her pay for this. His words made sense, but revenge didn't feel like enough. I wanted more. I wanted her to hurt, to feel the same betrayal eating me alive from the inside out. I'll think about it, I muttered. Mike watched me carefully. Don't just think about it, Ben. Do something. And for the first time that day, I knew he was right. I stayed at Mike's for hours, the beer dulling the edges of my rage but doing nothing to erase the mess my life had become. We didn't say much after that first burst of conversation. He sat in his armchair, occasionally glancing at me like I was a grenade that could go off at any second. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing, my mind looping through images of Rachel's smug face and Jason's pathetic whimper as he clutched his leg. I could still feel the weight of the revolver in my hand, that moment of pure instinct. If I hadn't pulled the trigger, hell, I didn't know what I would have done. Shooting him was bad enough. You want to crash here tonight? Mike finally asked, breaking the silence. I shook my head. No. I can't just hide here forever. Mike didn't push me. At least let me drive you home. You're in no shape to be behind the wheel. Home. That word didn't mean what it used to. I'll be fine, I muttered. I wasn't, but at this point, I didn't care. I needed to face the wreckage sooner or later. I left Mike's house just as the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky streaked with dark purples and reds. The drive home felt surreal, like I was watching myself from somewhere else. The house came into view, a place that had once been my sanctuary. Now, it was nothing more than a battlefield. I pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. The silence that followed was deafening. For a few seconds, I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, gathering the strength to go inside. When I finally did, I opened the door to find the house dark except for a faint light coming from the living room. The air felt heavy, like the walls knew what had happened and were still mourning it. My boots thudded against the floor as I moved toward the glow, bracing myself for whatever I might find. And there she was. Rachel was sitting on the couch, her legs curled underneath her, dressed in that same silk robe. A glass of wine sat on the coffee table in front of her, half empty, and her phone lay beside it. She didn't look up when I walked in. She just stared at the television, where some sitcom played on mute, the characters laughing in silent oblivion. "You're back," she said, her voice as emotionless as her expression. I stood there, my fists clenched at my sides. "Did you think I wouldn't come back?" Rachel turned to look at me then, her eyes cold and calculating, as if she were already 3 steps ahead in a game I didn't even know we were playing. "I thought you might run away. It's what you do, isn't it? You avoid things until they disappear." Her words hit me like a slap. Avoid things? Avoid things? You think I'm avoiding something here, Rachel? You're the one who. She held up a hand to cut me off, like I was nothing more than a nuisance interrupting her evening. "I'm not in the mood for another screaming match, Ben. I'm exhausted." The arrogance in her voice made my blood boil. "You're exhausted? You're the one who blew up our marriage today. You don't get to act like the victim here." She tilted her head, an infuriating smirk tugging at her lips. "I'm not acting like anything. I'm just done with the theatrics. You shot Jason. You could have killed him, and now you're standing there pretending like you're the wronged party." The room fell silent. I stared at her, stunned. "Pretending? You cheated on me, Rachel. You brought him into our house. Into our bed." She shrugged, sipping her wine with a casualness that sent a fresh wave of rage through me. "Maybe I wouldn't have if you'd been the man you were supposed to be." It was like she'd rehearsed this in her head. Every line, every jab, aimed perfectly to gut me. "Don't you dare put this on me," I growled, my voice low and trembling. Rachel leaned back on the couch, her gaze sharp. "Oh, come on, Ben. You think this just happened out of nowhere? You've been checked out for years. You stopped caring. You stopped trying. I found someone who actually pays attention to me, who sees me for who I am. That's not my fault." I took a step toward her, my hands shaking. "You're unbelievable. You have the audacity to sit there and justify this." Before I could finish, the doorbell rang. The sound cut through the room like a gunshot. Both of us froze, the tension hanging in the air like a thick fog. I turned toward the door, my heart pounding. Who the hell would be at my house right now? Rachel didn't move, her wine glass still poised in her hand. "You should get that," she said lazily, her voice dripping with mock amusement. I ignored her and walked to the door, my pulse thrumming in my ears. I opened it slowly, half expecting to see a cop standing there, ready to haul me off for shooting Jason. Instead, it was him. Jason. He stood there on the porch, leaning heavily on a crutch, his face pale and drawn. He had a bandage wrapped around his thigh where I'd shot him, and a look of forced bravado on his face. What the hell are you doing here? I demanded, my voice like gravel. Jason's lips curled into a smug grin, though he winced as he shifted on his crutch. Thought we should talk, Ben. Man to man. I stared at him, my hands clenching at my sides. You've got 5 seconds to get off my porch before I finish what I started. He didn't flinch. Instead, he looked past me, into the house, where Rachel was still lounging on the couch like a queen overseeing her kingdom. I'm not leaving, Ben. We've got unfinished business. My fists clenched so hard I thought I'd break my own bones. I wanted to drag him off my porch and throw him into the street, but something held me back, some twisted curiosity, some dark desire to see where this was going. Rachel called from the living room, her voice carrying like a knife through the air. Let him in, Ben. We all need to talk. I turned to glare at her. Are you insane? She smiled. That same smug, infuriating smile. What's the matter? Afraid of a little conversation? Jason stepped forward, his crutch thunking against the wood of the porch. Come on, Ben. Don't be a coward. I turned back to him, my vision narrowing. The audacity of it, him standing there, in my house, uninvited and unrepentant, made me want to lose control all over again. But I didn't. Not yet. Fine, I said coldly, stepping aside. Let's talk. Jason hobbled inside, leaning heavily on his crutch as though he were some war hero limping home. I couldn't stand the sight of him. My hand itched, the memory of pulling the trigger fresh in my mind, but I shoved the feeling down. I wasn't going to let this bastard provoke me again, at least not yet. Rachel stayed sprawled on the couch like she owned the place, her wine glass in hand, watching the two of us with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. I couldn't decide if she was cruel or delusional, maybe both. Jason stopped in the middle of the living room, his face tight with pain as he adjusted his weight. We need to clear the air, Ben, he said, trying to sound confident, though his voice wavered. Clear the air? I repeated slowly, staring at him like he was insane. You came into my house, slept with my wife, and now you want to have a civil conversation? Jason tilted his head, and for a second, I thought I saw fear flash in his eyes. I'm not saying I'm proud of what happened. Rachel cut him off with a laugh. A cold, sharp laugh that made the hair on my neck stand up. Oh, come on, Jason. Don't pretend you're sorry now. You weren't sorry an hour ago when you were in my bed. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I turned to her, my voice low and sharp. Shut up, Rachel. But she didn't. She leaned back against the cushions, swirling the wine in her glass like this was all a show for her amusement. What? Don't like the truth, Ben? Don't like hearing that someone else made me feel more alive than you ever did? Jesus Christ, Rachel. I exploded, unable to hold back the anger boiling inside me. I turned to Jason, pointing a finger at him. And you actually think you can stand here, in my house, and play the good guy? You're lucky I didn't shoot you somewhere worse. Jason shifted on his crutch, looking at Rachel with something close to panic. I could see the cracks in his bravado now, he hadn't expected this. Maybe he thought Rachel would defend him more, that she'd soften the situation somehow. But Rachel didn't care. She was enjoying this, feeding off it like some twisted parasite. Look, Ben, Jason said, holding up his free hand. I didn't come here to fight. I came here because Rachel said we should all talk. Like adults. I barked out a bitter laugh. Like adults? Do you hear yourself right now? Jason's gaze flickered back to Rachel, as though silently pleading with her for backup. She just sipped her wine and watched him squirm. Don't look at me, she said casually. You wanted to talk. Go ahead and talk. Jason's face reddened. He looked like he wanted to be anywhere but here, but he tried again, his voice steadier this time. I get it, Ben. You're angry. I would be too. But this thing between me and Rachel. There is no thing, I snarled, stepping closer, my fists clenched. You don't get to come into my life and pretend this is some mutual understanding. You're nothing but a lying, spineless. Rachel's voice cut through the room like a whip. Enough, Ben. I froze, turning to look at her. She was still calm, still unshaken, as if the chaos around her was entertainment. She tilted her head slightly, that smug smile tugging at her lips. Let's be honest here. This marriage was over long before Jason came into the picture. You just didn't want to see it. Is that what you tell yourself? I said, my voice trembling. That it's my fault you decided to lie and cheat your way through this marriage? She shrugged, as though it was the simplest thing in the world. Maybe it is your fault. You stopped being enough for me. I got tired of being the only one trying. And Jason, she gestured lazily toward him, he made me feel alive again. He gave me something you never could. Jason stood there like an idiot, his mouth opening and closing as he tried to figure out how to react. I couldn't look at him anymore. My focus was on Rachel, on the woman I'd given everything to, the woman who was now tearing me apart piece by piece. You know what, Rachel? I said, my voice calm but venomous. You're a real piece of work. I spent years loving you, supporting you, and this is how you repay me? By dragging some loser into our bed and then blaming me for it? Her smile vanished. For the first time, something in her expression shifted, something dark. She put down her wine glass and stood up, crossing the room to stand inches from me. You don't get it, do you, Ben? She hissed. I don't owe you anything. Not love, not loyalty, nothing. If I want to be with Jason, I will. And you can't do a damn thing about it. My jaw tightened. Is that what you really think? She leaned closer, her voice dripping with contempt. That's what I know. A silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. Jason looked like he wanted to disappear, but he couldn't leave without my permission, not with that crutch and his injured leg. I stared at Rachel, my anger and disbelief boiling over until it felt like it would consume me entirely. Finally, I spoke, my voice deadly calm. Get out. Rachel blinked. Excuse me? You heard me, I said, my tone steady. Both of you. Get out of my house. Now. Rachel scoffed. Oh, please. This house is as much mine as it is yours. Not anymore, I said coldly. You forfeited your rights the second you brought him here. Jason cleared his throat awkwardly. Maybe we should just. Shut up, I snapped at him. I'm not talking to you. Rachel's smirk returned. What are you gonna do, Ben? Call the cops? Tell them you shot Jason in a fit of rage? Who do you think they'll believe? That stopped me cold. For the first time since this nightmare began, I realized she had me cornered. If I pushed too hard, if I forced her out, she could destroy everything. She could spin the story however she wanted, and I'd be the villain. Rachel must have seen it in my face, because her smile widened. That's what I thought, she said softly. I stood there, staring at her, my mind racing. For a brief moment, I wondered if I could ever beat her at this game, if there was even a way to win. You're a monster, I muttered. Rachel shrugged. Maybe. But at least I'm honest about who I am. Can you say the same, Ben? Her words hung in the air, and I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The silence that followed Rachel's last words felt like it could suffocate me. She stood there with her arms crossed, head tilted slightly, wearing that smug grin like a crown. Jason lingered behind her like a beaten dog, swaying on his crutch, avoiding eye contact as though he might disappear if he stood still long enough. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms, my entire body shaking with the urge to lash out. But I knew better. Rachel wanted me to snap, wanted me to make some colossal mistake she could use against me. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. "You think you're untouchable, don't you?" I said, my voice cold and steady despite the rage boiling inside me. Rachel raised an eyebrow, her smirk unwavering. "No, Ben. I'm just done letting you control me. You think I'm the villain here because I found happiness outside of this sad excuse for a marriage? Please. I did what I had to do." "Happiness?" I spat. "You call sneaking around and shoving some two-bit loser into our life happiness?" Jason's head shot up at that, and for the first time, he found his voice. "Watch it, man," he said, trying to sound tough, though it was hard to take him seriously with him leaning on that crutch like a wounded deer. I turned my attention to him, my glare pinning him in place. "Oh, now you've got something to say. You couldn't even limp off my porch earlier without trembling, but now you want to stand here and act tough in my house?" I took a step closer, and he instinctively took a step back. "Ben, stop," Rachel snapped, stepping between us. "You're being pathetic. Look at you, so desperate to blame everyone but yourself." I let out a bitter laugh. "Blame myself? For what? For trusting you? For working my ass off to give us a good life while you paraded around behind my back like some cheap floozy?" Her eyes narrowed, the smile finally faltering. Good. I'd finally gotten under her skin. "You're so predictable, Ben," she hissed. "Always the victim. Always whining about how hard you work and how good you are. Meanwhile, you haven't been a real husband to me in years." I was lonely, Ben. I was miserable. And you didn't even notice. I felt like I'd been slapped. The gall of her, the audacity. I stepped closer, the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "You don't get to rewrite history just because you feel guilty, Rachel. I was there. I was always there. You're just too selfish to admit that you're the problem." She shook her head with mock disappointment, letting out a fake sigh. "You'll never get it, will you?" Jason decided to chime in again, his voice annoyingly calm. "Maybe you should just let it go, man. Things happen." That was it. My head snapped toward him, and before I knew it, I was standing right in front of him. He tried to back away, but with his crutch and injured leg, he couldn't move fast enough. I grabbed his shirt collar, shoving him hard against the wall. The thud echoed through the house, and his crutch clattered to the floor as he yelped in pain. "You don't get to stand in my house and talk like that," I growled, my face inches from his. "You happened. You walked into my life like a parasite and ruined everything. Ben. Let him go." Rachel shouted, grabbing at my arm, but I barely registered her. Jason's eyes went wide with fear. He looked so pathetic, so weak, that I almost felt pity for him, almost. Instead, I tightened my grip, my voice dropping to a whisper. "You think you're a man because you crawled into my bed while I wasn't looking? You're nothing. Less than nothing. Okay. Okay." Jason stammered, wincing as I shoved him once more for good measure. "I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, all right?" I let go of him abruptly, stepping back and watching as he slumped to the ground, gasping for breath. Rachel rushed to his side, glaring up at me with venom in her eyes. "You've lost your mind, Ben," she shouted. "What the hell is wrong with you? What's wrong with me?" I shouted back, my voice cracking. "What's wrong is that I trusted you. I loved you. And you threw it all away like it was garbage." Rachel straightened up, her expression hard. "Oh, grow up, Ben. People move on. That's life. You were just too weak to see it coming." Her words hit me harder than any punch could. I felt something inside me snap, something I didn't know if I could ever put back together. I turned and walked toward the door, my heart pounding, my breathing heavy. "Where are you going?" Rachel demanded, her voice sharp. "Out," I said flatly. I couldn't stay here. If I did, I didn't trust myself to keep my composure any longer. "Running away again," she sneered. Typical Ben. I didn't answer. I opened the door and walked out into the night, slamming it shut behind me. The cool air hit me like a shock, and I gulped it in, trying to steady myself. My hands were still shaking, and I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs like a war drum. I stood on the porch for a long moment, staring out into the darkness. The street was empty, silent, as if the whole world had stopped to watch my life fall apart. I thought about going back in there, about finishing what I'd started with Jason. I thought about dragging Rachel out of the house and telling her she could never come back. But what would it change? Nothing. It wouldn't erase the betrayal, and it wouldn't bring back the life I'd lost. For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. I sat down on the steps, burying my face in my hands. My mind was spinning, replaying everything Rachel had said, every lie, every excuse, every cruel word. And then, out of nowhere, I realized something. This wasn't just about Rachel cheating. It wasn't even about Jason. This was about me finally seeing the truth. Rachel had always been like this, selfish, manipulative, cruel. I'd just been too blind, too hopeful, to see it. The marriage had been dead long before I pulled the trigger. And I was the fool who didn't know it. I sat on the porch steps for what felt like hours, the cold night air biting at my skin as my thoughts spun in every direction. The silence around me was deafening, my house, my life, reduced to a battlefield I could no longer face. I thought about leaving, disappearing for a while just to get my head straight, but the idea felt hollow. What would I even do? Where would I go? As I sat there, staring at nothing, I heard a noise behind me, the faint creak of the door. I glanced back and saw Rachel standing there, silhouetted in the soft yellow glow of the hallway light. She was holding her phone, an unreadable expression on her face. "What now, Rachel?" I muttered. My voice was hoarse, drained of all the fire that had been burning inside me just an hour ago. She hesitated, which surprised me. For once, she didn't look smug or cruel. Instead, she looked unsure. Maybe even nervous. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. I turned my head fully toward her, my brow furrowing. "You've said enough for one lifetime, don't you think?" She ignored the jab and stepped outside, wrapping her arms around herself against the cold. "It's not what you think, Ben. It never was." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, this'll be good. Go ahead. Let's hear it." Her eyes narrowed, but she pressed on, her tone steadier now. "Jason wasn't my first." The words hit me like a sucker punch to the gut. I blinked, my mouth opening slightly as I processed what she'd just said. "Excuse me?" "I've been seeing someone else," she said bluntly, like she was stating the weather. "Jason was just convenient. Easy to manipulate." I stared at her, completely stunned. "What the hell are you talking about?" Rachel sighed, her expression hardening again. "I didn't think you'd ever figure it out. You weren't supposed to. Jason was a distraction, Ben. He wasn't serious. But this other guy," she trailed off, and for the first time, I saw something almost resembling guilt flicker across her face. "What other guy?" My voice was low, steady, like I was trying to keep a lid on a volcano. She looked at me with something close to pity. "You don't know him. And it doesn't matter now." "Doesn't matter?" I repeated incredulously. "You've been screwing around with multiple guys behind my back, and it doesn't matter?" Rachel shrugged. It doesn't matter because we're over, Ben. You know that. You're just clinging to something that's already dead. I stood up slowly, the anger bubbling back up inside me, rising like a tide I couldn't stop. I stepped toward her, and for a brief moment, she looked like she might back away, but she didn't. She stood her ground. You really don't feel a single ounce of remorse, do you? I asked, my voice shaking. Not even a shred of guilt for what you've done. Her expression turned cold again, and she tilted her head slightly. No, Ben. I don't. And you know why? Because I'm finally free. I stared at her for a long moment, 1,000 things racing through my mind. I thought about the years I'd wasted, the sacrifices I'd made, the lies I'd been fed. I thought about the man I used to be, the man who believed in love, in marriage, in trust. That man was gone now, buried under the rubble of what Rachel had done. And suddenly, I felt something shift inside me. I stepped back, nodding slowly. Okay. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Okay? Yeah, I said, my voice calm and cold. You're free, Rachel. Congratulations. I turned and walked back into the house, leaving her standing on the porch. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Inside, I grabbed my keys and wallet, my mind eerily clear for the first time in weeks. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay here, not tonight. As I stepped outside again, Jason was struggling down the driveway, his crutch clunking against the pavement. Rachel still stood frozen near the porch, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. I barely glanced at either of them as I walked to my car. Ben. Rachel called after me. Where are you going? I stopped, my hand on the car door, and turned to look at her. For once, I was the one smiling. Somewhere you can't follow me. I got in the car, the engine roaring to life as I pulled out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, I caught one last glimpse of Rachel and Jason, Rachel still standing there in the cold, and Jason awkwardly fumbling with his crutch, trying to keep up. They were small now, insignificant dots against the backdrop of my former life. I drove aimlessly for a while, the streetlights blurring together as I let the night swallow me whole. I didn't feel free, not yet, but I felt something close to it, like the first deep breath after being underwater for too long. Eventually, I pulled into an old diner on the edge of town, the kind that never closes and smells like coffee and grease. I slid into a booth, the vinyl seat cold against my back, and ordered a cup of coffee. As I sat there, staring into the black liquid, I realized something that almost made me laugh. Rachel thought she'd won. She thought she'd broken me. But the truth was, she'd set me free. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need answers. I didn't need her. What I needed was this moment, this chance to rebuild, to take back the pieces of myself she'd tried so hard to destroy. I leaned back in the booth, letting out a long breath. Fresh start, I muttered to myself, the words feeling strange but right. For the first time in a long time, I believed them.
The moment I heard that guttural laugh, something inside me snapped. It wasn't supposed to be like this. My wife, Emily, the woman I swore my life to, was supposed to be the one person in this world who had my back. But there she was, holed up in our bedroom with another man, while I stood outside the locked door, gripping a chainsaw in my hands. I hadn't planned this. Hell, I hadn't even known I'd be coming home early. But life has a funny way of shoving the truth in your face when you least expect it. Hours earlier, I'd been out of town for work. Emily had kissed me goodbye that morning, flashing me the same sweet smile she always did, one I now realized was nothing but a rehearsed performance. I was supposed to be gone for 2 more days, but after my last meeting wrapped up early, I decided to surprise her. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed something off. Emily's car was there, which wasn't unusual, but the sleek black Mercedes parked next to it? That was. I frowned. We weren't expecting guests. I stepped inside, and immediately, something felt wrong. The lights were dimmed. The air smelled of wine and perfume. one that wasn't hers. And then I heard it. Low, hushed voices. A giggle. My stomach tightened. I moved quietly, my feet sinking into the carpet as I walked down the hall. The bedroom door was shut. That giggle again. Emily's. But there was a second voice, male. Deep. Confident. Too damn comfortable in my house. I reached for the doorknob. Locked. A cold wave of rage rolled through me. My hands clenched into fists. My breath came hard and fast. I knocked hard. Silence. Then, a shuffle. A hushed whisper. The sound of hurried movement. I knocked again. Emily. More silence. That was all I needed. I turned and stormed into the garage. My fingers closed around the handle of the chainsaw before I even realized what I was doing. The weight of it felt satisfying. Heavy. Real. A part of me told me to stop. To breathe. To think. But I wasn't thinking anymore. I walked back to the door, revved the engine, and let the growl of the chainsaw echo through the house. Inside, chaos erupted. A loud thud, followed by a panicked, "What the F?" asterisk. I pressed the blade against the wood, letting it bite just enough for effect. I wasn't planning on actually hacking through yet. Open the F asterisk 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 ing door, Emily. My voice was calm. Too calm. I heard a scramble. Then crash. Something shattered. I moved back just in time to see a man, naked, shaking, eyes wide with sheer terror, hurl himself through the window and hit the ground outside with a sickening thud. Emily screamed. I let go of the chainsaw. The sudden silence was deafening. I stepped back, inhaled deep, and turned toward the front door. By the time I made it outside, the guy was limping toward his car, panting like a hunted animal. His face was bloody, his leg dragging. I walked up slow, watching as he fumbled with his keys, hands shaking so bad he could barely grip them. He didn't even see me coming. I grabbed him by the back of the neck and slammed him against the car. Who the F asterisk 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 are you? I growled. He whimpered something unintelligible. Behind me, Emily burst onto the porch, still in nothing but a sheet, screaming, Jason, stop. Please. Jason. So that was his name. I turned back to the guy. You Jason? He nodded, barely. I released him, watching as he scrambled into his car and peeled out of my driveway like the coward he was. Then, slowly, I turned back to Emily. She was standing there, trembling, arms wrapped around herself. But there was no remorse in her eyes. No guilt. Just anger. Like I was the one who had done something wrong. I exhaled slowly and walked toward my truck. Reaching inside, I pulled out a shotgun. Emily's face went ghostly pale. I wasn't going to use it. Not on her. Not on him. But she didn't know that. I cocked it once, just for effect, and looked her dead in the eyes. Say goodbye one last time, I said. She opened her mouth. Then, boom. The deafening blast echoed through the night as I aimed high and fired a shot into the sky. Emily let out a blood-curdling scream and dropped to her knees. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't over. Emily sat there, shivering in the night air, her arms clutching the sheet like it was the only thing keeping her together. But I wasn't fooled. The fear in her eyes? It wasn't fear of losing me. It wasn't guilt for what she'd done. It was fear of consequences. Fear that her perfect little world was about to crumble. I lowered the shotgun, resting it against my shoulder. Get up, I said, my voice even. She didn't move. I said, get the F asterisk up, asterisk asterisk. Slowly, she rose to her feet. Her breath came out in uneven gasps, her eyes darting to the broken window, the shattered glass glinting in the moonlight. I took a step closer, and she flinched. Good. What's the matter, Emily? I asked, tilting my head. You didn't expect me home tonight? She swallowed hard, her lips parting, but no words came out. I let the silence drag. Then, finally, she found her voice. Jason, he doesn't mean anything, she whispered. It was just a mistake. I laughed. Because that was rich. A mistake. I echoed. That's funny, because from where I'm standing, it looked pretty F asterisk 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 ing intentional. She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't plan this, I swear. Don't. I cut her off, stepping even closer, watching as she shrank back. Don't stand there and lie to my face. Not after I just watched your little boyfriend launch himself through my goddamn window like a F asterisk 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 ing stuntman. Her breath hitched. Tell me the truth, Emily, I said, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut. How long has this been going on? She hesitated. I could see her brain working, trying to calculate an answer that would soften the blow, that would keep her from looking as guilty as she really was. Too late for that. How long? Her jaw trembled. Then, a few weeks, she murmured. Bullshit. I took another step, and she backed up, her bare feet crunching over bits of broken glass. Try again. She shook her head. I swear, Jason. I snapped. I lunged forward, grabbing her wrist, yanking her toward me. She gasped, her eyes wide. You think I'm ****ing stupid? I hissed. You think I don't know when my own wife has been sneaking around behind my back? Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I let go of her so abruptly she stumbled back a step. Then, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I had receipts. I turned the screen toward her. You recognize this number? The blood drained from her face. She knew exactly what it was. A few days ago, I started noticing things, little things. The way she was suddenly glued to her phone. The late-night workouts that left her coming home with messy hair and that guilty little smirk she thought I wouldn't notice. So I did what any man with a gut feeling would do. I checked our phone records. Same number, over and over again. Late at night, during the day, even when I was home. And now, looking at her, she knew she was caught. How long, Emily? I repeated, softer this time. She exhaled shakily. 6 months, she whispered. 6. F***ing. Months, ***. I closed my eyes for a second, inhaling deep. That was all I needed to hear. When I opened them again, I saw something shift in her. The guilt? It was gone. Now, all that was left was defiance. She straightened up, the fear in her eyes replaced by something else, arrogance. So what? She snapped. My eyebrows lifted. So, what? She crossed her arms, the sheet slipping slightly, and for the first time, she smirked. I said what I said, she continued, tilting her chin up. You're acting like some crazy psycho, because I finally found a man who knows how to treat me. My fingers curled into fists. I mean, come on, Jason, she sneered. You work all the time. You barely even look at me anymore, and honestly? She scoffed. You're boring. I stared at her. I stared at this woman. This vile, disgusting excuse for a wife, and I felt nothing. Not anger. Not pain. Nothing. She thought she had the upper hand now. She thought she'd won. She had no idea. A slow smile stretched across my face. You're right, I said simply. That threw her off. Her smirk faltered. What? I shrugged. You're right, I repeated. I've been working too much. I haven't paid attention. And maybe I have been boring. She blinked. Wait, are you being serious? I nodded. Dead serious. Her shoulders relaxed just slightly, her lips twitching like she wanted to smirk again. That's when I delivered the final blow. I guess that's why I filed for divorce last week. Silence. She froze. And then, her face twisted into something ugly. You're lying, she spat. I pulled my phone out again, scrolled, and turned the screen toward her one last time. There it was. The confirmation email. Divorce papers. Filed. And the best part? She was getting nothing. Her mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Then, she screamed. Emily's scream ripped through the night, raw and filled with fury. It wasn't the cry of a woman who'd lost something she loved. No, this was the wail of a bitch who just realized she'd lost control. I watched her, calm, still, as she clenched her fists and shook like a rabid animal. You ****ing bastard, she screeched, stepping forward, shoving me hard against the chest. I didn't move. You're divorcing me? She shrieked. You don't get to ****ing leave me. I leave you. And there it was. The truth, clear as day. This wasn't about love. It was never about love. Emily had enjoyed the game, the sneaking around, the lying, the control. She thought she was untouchable, that I was just another clueless husband who would never grow a spine and walk away. She was wrong. And she hated that. I just smiled. You thought I'd beg, didn't you? I said, voice low. You thought I'd grovel at your feet, beg you to stay, forgive you like some pathetic little idiot? Her lips curled. You are pathetic. I laughed, shaking my head. No, Emily. You are. That hit. Her nostrils flared. You'll regret this, she spat. Doubt it, I shot back. She stepped closer, her face inches from mine, her eyes wild with rage. I'll take everything, she hissed. You think you can just throw me away like garbage? I'll make sure you regret this for the rest of your life. I just smiled again. Oh, she had no idea. I guess you didn't read the fine print, sweetheart, I said smoothly. You cheated. In our house. With a man I can prove you've been seeing for months. That means, I leaned in just a little, you get nothing. The color drained from her face. And in that moment, I saw it. The moment she realized she'd played herself. She thought she was untouchable. Thought she could get away with it. Leave me broken and desperate while she ran off with her boy toy and half my money. But I'd been one step ahead. She stumbled back. No, that's not. It's already done. I cut her off. Your name's off the house. My lawyer has every call log, every message, every transaction. That Mercedes in the driveway. Not yours. That credit card you've been swiping to take your little boyfriend to five-star hotels. Gone. I let that sink in. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then, she lost it. She lunged forward, hands flying at me, nails digging into my arms, face twisted in pure, blind rage. You son of a B*********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** animal, but I didn't flinch. I just grabbed her wrists, twisting them back just enough to make her stop. She panted, chest heaving, eyes blazing. And then, she spat in my face. For a second, I just stood there, unmoving. Then, slowly, I reached up, wiped my cheek, and let out a low chuckle. "You know what, Emily?" I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You just made this so much easier." She yanked away, her breath ragged, eyes darting back toward the house, like she was looking for an escape. "You're not staying here," I said, voice sharp. She froze. Her lips parted, but I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed her arm and dragged her toward the house. "Jason, stop!" she shrieked. "You can't do this." I yanked the door open, shoved her inside. "You have 5 minutes to pack your SD and get the F** out," I said, stepping back. She turned to face me, eyes wide, mouth gaping. "You're serious?" she whispered. "Dead serious." Her hands trembled at her sides, and for the first time tonight, I saw something new in her expression. Not arrogance, not anger, fear, because she knew this was it. The game was over, and she lost. Emily's breath came fast and shallow, her eyes darting around the room like a cornered animal. She still couldn't believe this was happening. The shock on her face was almost laughable, as if she truly thought she could cheat, mock me, and still walk away with everything. Not tonight. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Tick-tock, Emily." She snapped out of it, face twisting with rage again. "You can't do this. This is my house, too." I smirked. "Rome was your house. You've got 4 minutes." She let out a shrill, frustrated scream, yanking the sheet tighter around her as she stormed toward the closet. The sound of hangers clattering filled the air as she ripped clothes from the rack, shoving them into a suitcase with wild, jerky movements. I just stood there, watching. She could try to stall, try to argue, try to pull whatever manipulative bullst ** she wanted. It wouldn't work. I was done. As she rushed back and forth, she shot me glances, calculating, testing to see if there was any weakness left in me. There wasn't. "Where the F** am I supposed to go, Jason?" she hissed. I shrugged. "Not my problem." She stopped, hands gripping the suitcase so tight her knuckles turned white. For a second, she just stood there, chest rising and falling, shaking. Then, her expression changed. The anger? Gone. In its place, a slow, practiced smirk. "Oh, here we F** **ing go." She let out a fake little laugh, brushing her hair back over her shoulder. "You know," she mused, turning to me, voice suddenly sweet. "You don't have to do this." I raised an eyebrow. She took a step closer. "I mean, come on," she purred, looking up at me through her lashes. "We've been together for years, Jason. Are you really going to throw all that away over a stupid mistake?" I stared at her. She took another step, her voice dropping lower. "It was nothing. He meant nothing. You're the one I come home to." I let her talk. She placed a soft hand on my chest, fingers trailing down ever so slightly. "Let's not do this," she whispered. I almost laughed. This was her final move? After everything? I reached up, grabbed her wrist, and yanked it off me. Her face dropped. "No," I said, voice cold. "You come home to nothing." I shoved her hand away and stepped back. For a moment, she just stood there, stunned. Then, her rage exploded. "UF*ing piece of ST, she shrieked, grabbing a glass from the nightstand and hurling it at the wall. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the room. I didn't move. She lost. And she knew it. Emily grabbed her suitcase, yanking it off the bed so violently it nearly tipped over. She stormed past me, slamming into my shoulder as she went. I followed. Down the hall. Down the stairs. Straight to the front door. She ripped it open, stepping onto the porch, then whirled around, eyes burning with hate. "This isn't over," she snarled. I smiled. "Oh, sweetheart." I leaned against the doorframe, voice low, smug, final. "It already is." And with that, I slammed the door in her face. I stood there, gripping the doorknob, listening to the chaos outside. Emily lost it. She kicked the door, screamed something unintelligible. I heard the sharp clatter of her suitcase hitting the porch, followed by more frantic stomping. She was fuming, but she had nowhere to go. Not my problem. I exhaled slowly, rubbing a hand down my face. The house was dead silent now, except for the distant rumble of a car engine, probably hers. A part of me expected her to come barreling back in, throwing more tantrums, trying to claw her way back into my life like the parasite she was. But after a few minutes, there was nothing. Just silence. I turned away from the door and made my way to the kitchen, grabbing a beer from the fridge. My hands were still shaking slightly. Not from fear. Not from anger. From the sheer adrenaline of it all. 6 months. For 6 months, I'd been sleeping next to a liar, kissing a fraud, loving someone who had already moved on. And all that time, she thought I was too stupid to see it. I twisted the cap off the bottle and took a long sip, letting the cold hit my throat. Then I laughed. Not a happy laugh. Not a relieved one. Just something dry, hollow, disbelieving. I had been so blind. So *****ing blind. And now, the weight of that realization was crashing down all at once. I sat down at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, letting it all sink in. The memories. The moments that now felt fake. The nights she came home late. The mornings she left too early. The way she'd suddenly stopped touching me unless it was for show. The signs had been there. They were always there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling hard. I should feel broken, shattered, gutted. But instead, I felt free. For the first time in months, the tightness in my chest was gone. No more wondering. No more second-guessing. No more trying to be good enough for someone who was never good enough for me. I took another sip of my beer, tapping my fingers against the bottle. And then, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Emily. I smirked. Of course. I let it ring. Then, a message popped up. Emily, Jason, please. I'm sorry. Just talk to me. I chuckled. Pathetic. The last time she texted me first, it was to make up some excuse about working late. She was probably with him. Now, she was alone, desperate, and realizing that the game was over. I set the phone down without responding. Then, I grabbed my beer, leaned back in my chair, and let out a slow, deep breath. For the first time in a long, long time. The hours passed slowly. I sat at the kitchen table, the empty beer bottle resting in my hand, the house silent in a way it hadn't been in a long time. No footsteps from Emily pacing upstairs on the phone, no distant sound of her fake little giggle, no tension hovering in the air like a storm waiting to break. Just peace. The phone buzzed again. I didn't even check. I already knew who it was. I got up, stretched, and walked over to the window. Outside, the driveway was empty. No sign of Emily, no sign of her car. Good. She was really gone. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I could finally breathe. I should have done this sooner. I should have seen it coming. I should have known that the woman I fell in love with wasn't the same one who stood in front of me tonight. Furious, not because she was losing me, but because she was losing everything she thought she had control over. I turned away from the window and made my way upstairs, stripping off my shirt as I walked into the bedroom. The place still smelled like her, but it wouldn't for long. Tomorrow, I'd burn the sheets. Tomorrow, I'd throw out every trace of her from this house. Tomorrow, I'd wake up and finally, start over. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. For a brief moment, I let myself think back. Not to the lies, not to the betrayal, but to the beginning, back when I thought she was someone else. I'd loved her. I really had. But that version of Emily was long gone. And now? I didn't love her. I didn't even hate her. She was nothing to me now. I closed my eyes, exhaled slowly, and let the silence wrap around me like a promise. It was over, and I had won.